Well, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hit It podcast. We're opening up 2025 with an absolute legend. Wade Cox is in the virtual studio with me today. Welcome to the podcast, Wade.
Cool. Thanks for having us, Tyler. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, dude, this is going to be an unbelievable episode. We have tons of things to unpack here. But first, I've got to ask you this question coming off of 2024. The current conditions in the men's slalom competitions, where we saw 10 different winners, we've never seen this before. And you've been dockside for a lot of these on the Water Ski Broadcast Company. Talk to us about what's going on.
Yeah, it's I do. I get a luxury seat, if you will. The athletes have sort of accepted me in and welcomed me there in the right in the drama and being in the kitchen, if you will. But yeah, it was. I mean, we'd gone on I think a 5-year run where only four guys had won. Will, Tom, Freddie, and Nate, and so for the sort of tide to switch and all of a sudden just a flood of new winners, not just one or two. So it was really cool for me because I think it's always great for the sport, and then everybody wants a chance, and it's like, hey, that guy won, hey, maybe it's going to happen for me.
No doubt about it. I mean, you take a look at these people who were able to grab their first professional victory this season. U.S. Masters started off with Cole McCormick. Then we went to Lake 38 with Robert Hazelwood, Team HO Syndicate. Then we went Corey Vaughn over in England, and then Dane Meckler at the Mastercraft Pro, the youngest on the tour, which was Lucas Cornell at Travers Grand Prix, and then Brando Caruso at the Miami Pro. This is so different from
Right.
when you were battling Andy back in the day. I mean, it's just these names are popping up everywhere.
No, it was really fun to watch. First of all, as you mentioned, Cole to start the year off. I mean, I think it was one of those, like maybe when John Travers won the Masters back in I think 2011. It was sort
Right.
of a victory for the ages, like for the generation of skiers, for all of us that grew up with Ricky either on our ski or doing flips. Where we all wanted to be Ricky McCormick, and the next thing, Susie, his mom, she was right there neck and neck. One of those battle with Christy Overton that went like 3, 4, 5 years, where it was going to be one of those two winning the Masters. So that was sort of, like I said, a victory for the ages. And then there was a few guys. Rob Hazelwood been right there,
Right there.
right there in the verge. Same with Meckler. He's been right there when you're just going, man, they're going to do it. They're going to be there. They put themselves on the podium enough that same we saw Allie Nicholson over the last years.
That's right.
If you sit there and you get enough seconds or thirds, someone's just going to give you one, and then like we saw at the end of the year, Brando Caruso went out and took it. Like he went
Right.
out early in the field. And when you're not a heavy favorite, it's a great place to go, is to go early in a final. And then sometimes if you're a new up and coming favorite, it's still a good spot. Or if you're an old guy like I became at one point, where even like Will now, Will's like at Moraga, dude, give him a shot to go out first. He's going to light it up so much that it sends everybody else into a bit of a flat spin. So when Brando did the 3.5, I was like, at 41 at the Miami Pro, I was like, man, I don't know if anyone's going to beat that, because they were being pros, complaining about ropes, boats, props, right, whatever, So yeah, I've heard it all, So.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. And that's the thing. I mean, so many people that are going to listen to this podcast are going to be remembering. I mean, we can remember the trajectory you were on, and when you just like caught the wave and went parabolic and then just dominated into the decades, into the 90s, into the 2000s. And it just seems like such a different world that we are in skiing right now, with so many up and coming people. And it may have been a little bit because, Nate Smith walked away a little bit and started doing his professional job on the side to be Pilot, and then the unfortunate fall and injury from Freddie Winter kind of opened the door. But a very, very shocking season indeed. And go ahead.
No, I agree, Tyler. But I heard, the tainted Lance Armstrong say, "Hey, it's sport. It's what happens, man." And so it wasn't Jamie Bull's fault that Regina got hurt a few years ago and she won her first Worlds. Regina had just come back and got super close, but behind the scenes we were saying, "Oh, Jamie's got the blood in the mouth. She's got the taste." She's like, hey, she had learned how to win during Regina's absence. That's sport, man. That's the way it goes, So none of those guys that won this year, certainly Corey Vaughn, man, the dude's put in like 15 years.
Yeah.
Since the first time I heard his name that he'd run 41 at La Pointe. And I'm like, okay, that's one of the hardest places to ski in the entire world. And that dude ran 41 like years ago. So, for him to sort of, because I get a lot of the behind the scenes, I knew that he had reinvented himself and was like dedicated, that's what he wanted to do, was win a pro event, period. Just win one. And he did. And then he backed it up, winning the Nationals. So what a year he had. Quite a few podiums, ran another 41 there at I think the Cali Pro-Am or the whatever the night.
One of those stops along the way.
One of those ones where it's funny because they went behind a certain boat and all of a sudden they skied really, really good. It was at the night thing. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, but was that
the night jumping?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And remember, Travers ran like 5 at 41 to get 5th place.
Yes.
To make it the cut, right?
Yeah.
So I texted Chris Parrish during that round because I was getting updates from him. I said, "Hey, I guess no one's complaining about the boat. Ha ha."
Well, and I want to pause there. Then we're going to unpack a bunch of stuff because, back in the day, battling on the tour, obviously you were trying to make it through almost what was a tournament bracket to get to the finals, to go to the head-to-head. We were talking to Dane Meckler on the last podcast about that particular final that you just mentioned, where it was like, how did I not make the cut? Like, am I going to have to run 41? And he was talking about how these cuts now, because it's not head to head, when it shrinks from, let's say, a 10 or 8 person field into the finals, and it gets down to 4 or 3 people that are going to make it into the finals, what that actually does to the competitors on what they're going to have to run. And you could go out and run 5 at 41, potentially not make a final. That's just crazy to me.
Well, I've sort of been waiting for more of the field to move beyond 3. Yeah. Even handsome Rob Hazelwood, it took him, like a couple seasons to get to 3, because he was, getting stuck on halves, ones, then he was moving to 2s. But once you can get 3, it's like, okay, now you can make a lot of those cuts.
That's right.
If you may not have a clue how to get the ball 4, but you can get the ball 3. But getting the ball 4 at 41 is, I don't know, it's like 3 buoys better.
There you go. I like that analogy.
It's not from 3 to 4. I mean, I know that that's the count, but it's monumental. It's like 4th and 1, all of a sudden, and you make it, and then, hey, we saw Regina break the world record, at the Malibu a couple years ago, where she was just like, hey, get to ski outside 3, take the lead. Next thing she's outside 4. And then she's like, hey, 5, world record. And it sort of can happen that easily, but that block there is tough,
Yeah.
And so to see a lot more of the field get there is only going to make it better and more exciting, because I've, for years, Nate was the only guy that could run 41.
That's right.
Well, there's a few other guys that would make it, but he was the only one running it. And now he's come back to the field. Yeah, and all of them are like leveled off right there. A lot of 4s and 5s. So it's only gonna get better the next few years.
It is going to be crazy in 2025. Well, I'll tell you this, Wade. The challenge for me as the host on this podcast, interviewing Wade Cox, is how much ground we're going to cover here, because we kind of opened it up, the current state of water skiing, men's slalom, your involvement on the water ski broadcast company, but you're a Hall of Fame athlete. You've given back so much to the sport, and you're still in the sport doing a ton of coaching, traveling around. We see you on the cameras. We see you doing a bunch of stuff. I just wanted to kind of ask you out of the gate, what's a typical day in the life of Wade Cox right now?
Well, the summer and the winter are completely opposite. Yeah. Uh, kind of like a school teacher or a rock band that's going to go on, tour. And then you come home and you regroup and, make new contacts and, figure out a new route. And that's sort of, what I'm doing now. It's obviously, we're coming out of the holidays and yeah, we're getting ready to just absolutely charge it again. And I'll go to Costa Rica in February. So that's been a annual pilgrimage outside of COVID for now a decade. And
Wow.
I had gone to Water Ski Paradise for 30 years, something like that. I've made at least probably 18 or 20 trips down there, always do a week. So I know that sort of dissolved and it's reestablishing itself at a new location that I'll probably be at in the real near future. But once April, May comes along, I'm on the road pretty much full time until September, October. And I do a Ski with Wade coaching tour that is in 30 years
Wow.
now, if I really want to throw a date on it. And it's been cool to connect and then reconnect again with certain people over decades. And then I still get to connect with a ton of new talent, new kids
Sure.
that are new club members like your kids, maybe we'll get to hook up with them. And then they're trying to get, ratings and PBs and make it the regional so they can get to the world champs of U.S. water skiing. It's the nationals, and so that's always a big hoot for me, whether it's a women's 5 or a, boys 2, seeing them again at nationals, because I normally make an annual trip to the U.S. Nationals and I'm there for a couple of days. So that's always very rewarding for me to see them with their medals, and they, mission accomplished. But, for a lot of my Ski with Wade business, it's these guys or gals are, they go get their ski on. It's like, a guy's going to the golf club or ladies going to the tennis club, it's what they do. They enjoy doing it. They enjoy the fellowship at the lake. You got to have a driver. That's the cool thing about skiing. It's like tennis. My little sister played college tennis. You got to have somebody to hit with. Well, that creates a bond there in and of itself, and then, you need a third person. Bam. Now we got coffee talk, before and after we ski, so that's been the cool thing to be involved with, people's disposable time.
That's right.
It's like what they want to do, and I get to go and be a part of it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when you brought up the Nationals this year. It was really cool. We were in Bakersfield, obviously, for 2024, going to be back in 2025. And I saw you in the tent area, and it's kind of surreal. You're talking about doing Ski with Wade for almost 30 years. Well, that would put me at 9 years old. I mean, that is like prime time when I'm looking up to Wade Cox. So at 9 years old, I'm walking through those tents. I see you. And now I'm walking through those tents, and my 7-year-olds who skied the net, I'm like, that's Wade Cox. I looked up to that guy. Like, he's amazing. So it is an amazing thing with the longevity that you've been coaching. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, we had Carl Robert on not too long ago, and we were talking about specifically jumping with Carl and kind of how skis got to how big they were and kind of cutting his teeth on the technology. But that's another element of your coaching that I think we need to highlight here. I mean, you were coming into an era of, Bob LaPointe really dominating through the 80s. Here comes Wade Cox along, kind of on the upswing here. He's skiing against Carl Roberts. You guys figured out a lot of this technology when it came to skis. Talk to us about that and how you incorporate that into your coaching.
Well, Bob was really the godfather of change. There were some critical guys in Seattle willing to change. Danny Kidder that Herb worked for. I mean, that Carl worked for. Bob worked for O'Brien Skis, which is Herb O'Brien, and then I sort of inherited Herb through my HO relationship, and immediately I bonded with Herb because I knew Bob's story, and I knew it through Carl, and I knew how to take a ski that had bevels that just said, like my boy would say, that went to infinity and beyond. It was like they were generic. It was like like you're looking at a wood closet, like behind me. And we're like, man, that's not the way our bevels should look. Your bevels should be different at your front foot than it should be at the back foot. And then maybe the bevels way in front of your front foot should be way different than the ones way behind your back foot. And then, so the more we sort of opened up our test kit, if you will, then what you would find was a lot of frustration, because I asked Willie Asher years ago, and I'd already shared this with Carl and Bob, how much time we wasted trying to find the magic, because you'll end up going down the wrong road for a while, not knowing that all you needed is a simple rocker change, or no, try this flex with this, or move your bindings a little bit, or hey, have you tried this fin on this ski? There's all these different variables. And then the other thing that made it challenging was already ripped on the pro skiers. I was one of them. So I was the one doing lots of ripping, because the boats would change, the props would change. Then we go through 4 different companies of speed controls. There was like AccuSki, DynoSki, Perfect Pass, and now Zia. And then you would get a new software, and they would change up. You're like, well, now, what do I need to change to compensate for this change? So there was a lot of frustrations, but yeah, once you knew, now the crew call it the baseline.
That's right.
Willie knows if he's 180 pounds and he jumps on this ski with this setup, it's going to work.
That's what he's going to get. Yeah.
He knows it's going to work. Right.
Interesting. As you were going through those changes, and that is, having grown up during that time with all of that technology, I can at least testify from my perspective. It was very difficult. Every season felt different. I mean, it just felt different. And then you kind of come across this road of, do I put more emphasis on the ski that I'm skiing on, or is it me when it comes to the technique? How did you handle that part of it? Because like you said, on skis, you could travel down the wrong road, which it might have been a better road to maybe change your technique a little bit, and maybe that would have been a better compensation, but maybe not. Maybe long term, it was better to go with the skis. How did you think about that?
Well, I learned eventually that it was a tool. It was like, hey man, it was a tennis racket or a golf club. There's still there's still a user. So yeah, once I went into sort of attack mode, and I reached the final of a tournament, man, I was never, ever, ever thinking about my ski. What I was trying to do is give myself space and just read the situation, and during, my career, buoys got smaller, and then all of a sudden we had the pre-gates added, like 93-ish. So now all of a sudden, yeah, the game changed. You know, our buoy count, you can look at Maple and our buoy count, we were running, you know, shallow to mid 41 and 99, 2000, you know,
Yeah.
so for it
Yeah.
taking that long for the field to sort of get to where we were says that we were way out in front.
Sure.
You know,
no doubt about it.
basically same with Carl's jumping, man. When he got on those new skis and he went 11 for 11 and he went 4 Masters in a row and he'd win most jump finals on one jump, that dude was dialed, you know? And so that's where I think Maple and I both, like, he pushed me to a point that I'd never dreamed I would be. And then I think I pushed him because I was so maniacal, and that I thought, you know, from being like your boys wanting to go to nationals to next thing I'm eating alive wanting to be the best skier in the world. I got to beat this British dude. And so I had to learn, you know, how to eat, how to drink enough water, get enough rest, get enough sleep, how to train off the water physically. What my ideal weight was. And then, ultimately I had to ride a ski that was going to be a tool. And then once, like I said, once you had the pre-gates and our sort of visuals became sort of more set in stone, then it became, I don't know, when Pear sort of came out of his retirement after his neck surgery, and it was like maybe 2017, 2018, he was away. He's like, hey, I want you to coach me. And I said, good, this is going to be fun. Cause he's like a little brother to me. And he was just starting off, you know, like his buoy count would have been way off what it was going to be by the time 2019 nationals came around. But he was starting to play a lot of basketball. And I said, we're going to treat it like a free throw. You're going to walk up, you're going to breathe, 3 dribbles, let it go. But you got to be able to do that in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left.
That's right.
So your physical well-being and your mental state means you got to be a badass. You know, you got to be able to be physically, you know, have enough endurance, enough strength to do what it takes, and then mentally be able to make decisions when your heart rate's at like $185, whatever it is. You're leaving ball 3, going to ball 4, now at 41. Right. This, you know, but you've got to still be able to, you know, dial it back. And there's a few guys that can, you know, Nate, Freddie, Willie, you know, you've seen those guys be able to just late as all get out of 1, wheelie out of 2, on the nose at 3, 4 at 41.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, no. So, yep. There you go.
So, I mean, there's so many questions I would like to unpack here. I want to go right back to the top of that, though. When you get in the boat and coach, I mean, just from that conversation right there, there's so many angles you can take a look at, but it is quite interesting that you bring a perspective where you can most likely watch a couple passes and go, you know, that spray out of the turn on that 135, it's not quite breaking where it is. Do you want to head back to the dock, maybe shift those bindings around? Or have you ever thought about trying a bigger ski? Talk to us as the listeners listen to this. Like, what can they expect when they ski with weight?
Well, if I were to diagnose myself, I'm like the music teacher that can hear perfect pitch, you know, or I can just, if I was like a musician, I'm a fake musician. I can play a little bit, but if you're one of those that can just almost tune a guitar, you know, just by sound out, it's 3 clicks up on that one and then you're good. So I've got a sight that when I'm watching, I just see the path and I just see it. and I don't know why I see it and other people don't. I had a pilot, a Navy pilot that's got like, 9,000 hours in the cockpit. And he goes, yeah, you've got that trained eye that you know where every switch is on the board in the cockpit. And you just feel it and go, right, your hand just goes to that because that's part of you. And so I see it like that. So I've had a few skiers with me that have come a third and a fourth time. And I finally had one of them on one of my early podcasts when I had a little ski group after a 3-day ski with Wade camp at Traverse. And the lady, Amy, she was really cool about it. She goes, well, I kept thinking I'm not going to come back and ski with you again. And I was like, oh, really? Yeah. She goes, well, yeah. She goes, but this is like the fourth time now. And she goes, you always say something new. And I was like, right on. I love that. But basically, yeah, I look at your stance, I look at your movement, and when are we going?
That's right.
We talked about if we're skiing the course, we've got free gates to let us know. If there's a 95% chance you're going to be a slalom skier if I'm coaching you. I can coach tricks and jump, and I do occasionally. But yeah, I'll teach you how to use the course itself and how to get ahead and sort of how to achieve victory, if you will. And it's sort of the way I skied from 92 until 2008 when I was finito. It was really, really, really simple. It's like the course tells you have to go left, and then you have to go right between those red suckers or orange, whatever color, right? So then, if you listen to the TWBC and you hear the pro coaches sitting in the box with Tony, you hear him over and over again talk about the skiers creating space.
That's right.
And they it's almost bad to watch a bunch of really good pro skiers ski because they're all so good with their efficiency on their gait that you need to throw a Yahoo out there and go see somebody rearing up on their back foot,
right.
Or a way too long a gate pull out, or a way too short of one where you're super narrow like Maple would have gone. You can go, no, man, we're going to play our odds and we're going to give ourselves space. And then we're going to learn how to ride our ski as if we're riding a skateboard or a snowboard or snow skis. We're going to get you in a spot where you're going to be able to move with your ski, and you should be able to feel that bevel underneath the ski. And yeah, we sort of speak that language.
I love that. Wade, you mentioned this a little bit earlier in the podcast. When people meet you for the first time, you're like the most outgoing, gregarious, always have a smile on your face type of guy. I pulled up and you mentioned this, I pulled up your Hall of Fame kind of bio when you were inducted in 2012. And there's a quote at the very top of this, and why that's so different, and how it translates from Wade Cox off the water to tournament mode Wade Cox. This is the quote: competition is an incentive to improve. And you mentioned it earlier. You were driven by that competition with Andy. Talk to us about that switch that you were able to turn when a tournament came around, when you were on the dock, to go into hyper competitive mode, or maybe when you were training off the water, having that goal, having that vision in mind.
I think a little bit, we talked about basketball. Like when I was in the 8th, 9th grade on our individual teams, 8th grade and 9th grade, I was already the best free throw shooter, and I worked at it. And then by the time I was in high school and I was, 10th grade, made the varsity. Yeah, a lot of times in the fourth quarter, they'd be like, give the ball to that guy because they're going to foul him and he's going to make them. So I knew I had that little bit of toughness or whatever I could clutch, if you will. And then once I was a pro and I won my first event with St. Louis 89, And then by 92 in the spring, I ski with Tommy Phillips,
Mm-hmm.
who's a great mind coach. And he got me, Anthony Robbins,
Oh, wow.
Zig
Anthony Robbins
Ziglar.
back in 92.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
right on. You're
Old
cutting
school stuff.
edge.
Yeah. So
All right.
he sort of, trained me on positivity
Yeah.
and getting rid of negativity and then being able to just boom, step up to the next shot, as if the last one never happened. So and then I sort of realized that, and then I had some validating moments, winning validates, but your peers,
Yeah.
Brett Thurley said to me one day, I was in my John McEnroe days. I was sort of learning Tommy's new, I got to be way more zen and pace myself and learn the craft to make finals. But I was having one of those Johnny McEnroe moments, and Brett said, I know you're being a jackass right now, and you just tossed your ski, and, but he goes, you have something that most of us don't. I'm like, what? I mean, frustrated. I mean, obviously to this point, I'm raging in practice. And he goes, you can beat Andy. We can't. And I was like, wow, holy shit. This is like my best man of my wedding telling me,
wow,
yeah, dude, you can do it. I was like, holy crap. So then that was huge. And then, I don't know, maybe it was Chet Rayleigh said it. Mr. Clean, my man, because I skied with Tangy Bennett, who taught me toughness, Mike Ferraro, who was like, he was really my Zen master, sort of worked through Tommy to keep me mellow. And then Chet just did a ton of driving for me and just was a nice rebounder, but I think it was Chet that said it. We're in the dock at Oak Healy, and there's maybe 15 people on the dock. And this was like 95, 96 maybe. And there's Jarrett Llewellyn, Ronnie Barton, and me, and I'll bring Brett Thurley back in, and a bunch of punters, he would say. A bunch of dudes that wanted to be, on the tour. They're all out there at 8 a.m. training like we were. And Chet just said something off the cuff, says, well, man, what's annoying is we're all out here to practice, and those three can get their absolute tail kicked to the curb and wake up thinking they're going to come out and kick your ass. And he just said it with the Bromios there in the dock. And then Ronnie and I actually were driving back to Orlando after that. And I said, so did you sort of take that in from the maestro? Yeah, did you hear what he said? She was like 18. I was 25. I said, yeah, that's what people think of us. So use that to your, advantage.
Yeah, it's almost like you had that competitive advantage before you took the dock.
No, it was kind of crazy because, once I got to that level where as I said about Jamie Bull, once I had the blood in my mouth, and that's what I wanted, then, I did a bunch of, God bless, I never hit a dock like Freddie Winter, but I almost hit the jump. I almost hit the slider at the pro weight. The kicker. Yeah, the big whatever A-frame. Yeah, the big Bud Light and Coors Light banners. Yeah, I almost hit everything on the lake crashing to try to win those stupid tournaments.
Well, and I would tell you, I think it was, you can correct me because I know you're going to know what year it is, but I think it's like 93. I don't think there's any more exciting slalom skiing can get than Wade Cox on a VTX. I mean, you would be down and out, and some of the leans. We could talk about the turns, but some of the leans, which were, I don't know, you could probably put them in the category as a lean lock just to get to the other side. I mean, your hair's going crazy. You're just radical. You're going for it.
Yeah, as a
Yeah, it was.
certified mullet, I think. Yeah.
You were rocking it, and you could tell you were all in. And that's what I'm kind of getting at with this competitive spirit. There was something very, very special that, obviously we see great skiers, the competition's at a very high level, but your approach to it, and you
You
would
know,
show it sometimes. Like if things didn't pan out, there was emotion there doing those interviews like you give at the
yeah,
water ski broadcast.
a lot of times I made Freddie Winter look like a good guy. Just doing me, Freddie's the bad guy. He's the one that shows, the most emotion when he wins or loses. And I love that in him.
Yeah,
I love it, man. I want to see the fist pumps, and then I want to see somebody completely brokenhearted, because that's what they trained
that's what they were.
for
Yeah,
9 months, man. This was my goal, was to win this tournament. So yeah, when I see it on the inside and I'm there, behind the scenes with the microphone, yeah, I really enjoy that part. But here's a technical thing that one of my buddies brought up recently. So the boats are bigger, more powerful, ropes are stronger, and then we have this sort of very sensitive ZO, okay, speed control for those unaware of this. So what we had, none of those. We had a much smaller boat, smaller engines, a little bit stretchier rope, okay. So no speed control, right? So getting into a battle with the boat or the driver. One day I mentioned La Pointe because I coached out there for a couple of years at La Pointe Ski Park. Chris, who's one of the coolest guys to be around because he very rarely says anything, but when he does, it's like, but I make him laugh all the time, so I enjoy being around him, but I said, hey, look, guys, sorry, that's not an 84 Mastercraft that you can pull down a tenth and a half between ball 4 and 6 and move the boat 4 to 6 inches both ways going to 5 and 6. And Chris is just laughing because I just spill the bean. That's the way it was. You could jump on the driver doing one of those VTX turns. So I was riding a 65 and a half inch ski.
No way. How much were you weighing at that time?
The same, dude, like 175.
Wow.
Because
the most ever.
Yeah, because even at the end of my career, I weighed 180, 185 max, and I was riding a 68.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how much the sort of industry, all the technology changed, So that what that old school, the slow skis, the small boats, it allowed for a battle.
Yeah.
And then if you could battle, yeah, you could win. And that's how I learned how to win, being like in rugby, they would say a mutter, me and my mate, Jody Fisher. We were like, well, if it's perfect and we're at Okahili, we can't win.
That's right. Yeah.
We can't win the tournament. Hey, the wind starts blowing 30 miles an hour from the crosswinds. Dude, we're in, because we were skiing in England and Arkansas and 35 degrees. Hey, man, let's get out there and ski. So we needed bad conditions. And then I learned how to win in really good conditions. Yeah. But it just took a little bit longer than to be a mutter,
Yeah. No, I love that conversation. Just what you just mentioned about the versatility of bad conditions versus good conditions. And let me ask you this: when you were on the tour, right? Like, this is hard to picture, but of all of the factors, throttle driving, right? Like, did you walk down to the dock sometimes and look at who's in the boat driving, going I know I can get him out of 4-ball and he's not going to pick up on me until 5? Was that a factor? How did you feel that out?
Yes. When I first started on the tour, I'm not going to name names, but it was a significant advantage to have one driver versus the other, not just a little bit. I mean, it was like, yeah.
And was that decided? Was that a coin flip? How did you get what driver back then?
It was, exactly. So you win the coin toss, and I think they were labeled boat 1 and boat 2.
Okay.
And so you knew boat ones was the one going first. And we didn't have the same rules that we had now. We had cooler rules than always the final. You had to go tie break to the end. Boat one would still go first. Boat two would still go second. Uh, but but that changed, and then it became, we started it basically, you know, my era, my generation of complaining enough, going, well, hey, dude, can't we get this guy to drive? He's here. He's over there, like hanging out at the VIP tent.
Right.
His wife's working as a judge. Like, can't we just get him in the boat? So then then we just started lobbying. Then it became super cool because quite a few events that weren't part of the Pro Tour would come to us and say, who do you want to drive? We want you to come to our tournament, and then now the same.
Same. I mean,
you don't just get to
reputation
go,
is huge. It's huge for a driver.
You don't get to just drive the Mastercraft Pro or the
Right.
Malibu Open. You got to be one of those invited to drive, and you're on the approved list. And so no, that's a great spot to be in, to be one of those good drivers. They get
Yeah, no, that
part
absolutely.
of the show. Yeah.
Let me ask you about this, Wade. A lot of people don't know this about you, but you grew up as a 3-event skier. So regionals and nationals, I mean, that was in your blood. Those were marked on the calendar. You were going to ski those tournaments. And I know a lot of our listeners may be thinking, how do I get involved in skiing for the first time? Maybe I should ski my first tournament. And I would say this, just about where I'm at coaching my kids. I always go into the mentality of a new season saying, if I can at least get a tournament on the calendar early in the season, it's probably going to be paying off for them later in the season just because we started training.
Yeah.
Talk to us about the mentality of getting involved into tournaments and how that makes you a better skier.
Well, I think there's a real side effect that happens from going to tournaments that you don't really expect. Maybe you're going into it looking for it. And then boom, there it is. You found it. As I already said, you're going to meet a driver and a spotter, probably. And then what I always encourage people to do is join local ski clubs. They're fun, man. You meet like-minded people that, hey, maybe on your normal Tuesday now, you've got a court case or something, and now you're like, hey, we met this guy at this tournament. He'll come over, and my boys can ski with his boys.
That's right. That's right.
And the next thing, there's like some built-in camaraderie, and then the other side effect is that sort of built-in competition that we have with ourselves.
Yeah.
You want to make yourself better. You want to present yourself better. Hey, I want to get a better vest. If you showed up and you're like, man, I want to look cool like those guys. And you look and man, who the cool guys were. And, for me, it was Sam.
Oh yeah.
And then Carl both. And, Sammy was the mayor, so to speak. Hey man, how you doing? He knew everybody's name and said everybody's name. He'd look you right in the eye. And even if you were 10 and 12 years old, and then Carl was like this surfer, cool California dude. He's like winning and he's just all mellow and chilled out. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, something that just sort of, I got to meet those guys because we joined a local ski club. I skied in this little Arkadelphia novice where the 76 South Central Regionals were on a public lake. That was my home little water ski club. And so, yeah, I met Kyle Tate and John Tate and, loads of others that just sort of, sprang from that. And then, regionals, nationals, and then here I am.
Yeah, and I think that's the testimony of, I mean, you went from basically, you talk about a regionals that was held on public water through the ranks all the way through regionals and nationals and became one of the best skiers of all time. And so, that dream is still very much alive. Like we're going to be going back to Bakersfield this year and so it's such a cool deal. So
for those viewers out there that are Tyler Boyd fans, I used to work the boat show in Denver
Yeah.
with Tyler's grandpa. And your grandpa must have taught what, 1,000, 2,000 people how to water ski?
A lot of people. A
Oh
lot of
yeah,
people.
crazy man. And then your mom was on the U.S. water ski
That's
team
right.
when I was that little kid getting my very first water skier. I was already seeing pictures of your mom. So yeah, no, that it just was neat. I think I tell everybody, yeah, go have a tournament, go join a ski club, both.
Yeah.
And I think,
Speaking of Colorado, you still stop by Colorado all the time, right? And do
yeah, I
your
go
ski
through
with Wade.
know me
Yeah.
every summer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 30 years. I mean, I can't imagine the relationships that you have around the world. I mean, US, but around the world, 30
Yeah,
years of coaching.
well, we talked about it. Yeah, my ski with Wade coaching tour. I start in February in Costa Rica, but I'll come to you if you through this. Shoot me a message, and yeah, I'll come to your lake. And then this past summer, I started doing the syndicate tour, which is basically a product demo tour, and it's free to the public. Uh, no strings attached. You just sign up through my website and pick the venue that you want to go and ski, and then we're there. We provide a boat driver. I'm there to give instruction, and I set the ski. And a lot of times, I even have handsome Rob Hazelwood or Will Asher or Chris Paris. They're setting skis up for me. You know, a lot of times I'll also have the sales rep there. So it's a really cool day. We just make it a super fun day to come and hang out at the lake, and you get to try product. And if you like the product, yeah, you get to buy it on the spot. So it's a
Awesome.
unique opportunity where it's really hard to try skis, you know. And
No, you're and Wade, let me highlight that point. And I think for a lot of listeners that are looking for new equipment, that's kind of been a frustration in years past. It's like, well, you could, whatever, go order one online, they send it to you or whatever ski company, and then you got to send it back. But then weeks are going by. Now you're getting into tournament season and you never really got sorted out before the season. I mean, if you go ski with Wade and you're trying some product and you get to switch, that's just, you save an abundance of time and you can get on the right equipment more quickly.
well, the one thing that we've done a little bit different at Syndicate for years and years, I think we're on 20 years basically of having two high-end skis. And it's just for that. Like, hey, well, why you don't like that? Hey, why don't you try this one? Because if your style, if you will, isn't suitable for that, and your body is wanting to move at a certain time, or your tempo in the ski's not ready yet, well then yeah, trying something else yeah, may just be the easiest problem solve of all. You know,
Sure.
not a little binding or a little fin tweak or, you know, weeks and weeks wasted on these little tweaks. So you go, man, just try something else, and bam, you're
100%.
enlightened. So we started really understanding this. As I mentioned, Mike Ferraro was instrumental, along with Tommy, with sort of shaping my mind, but at the same time, I was shaping my skis to suit that. To go, hey, look, I want certain things for my ski. I want it to be fast. I want to give me space, but then I needed it to grip and sort of have a certain movement coming in, and yeah, all of that just sort of what works hand in hand. Because yeah, if you're just constantly fighting your ski and through make no thought problems of your own,
Right.
it's like, hey, that's your movement. You're a lefty. You do things like this. Let's get you set up like on a ski that a bunch of lefties would use. And you're a right foot forward skier. You're like, oh yeah, we got a whole bunch of right foot forward skiers about your size that they run about these settings on about these skis, you know.
Right.
And then you're sort of at least in the bell curve, hopefully, instead of sort of being way off
Well,
on one end or the other, going, well, I'm in 2% range, not, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. No, that's an amazing thing. I wanted to ask you, Wade, because water skiing is somewhat of a lifestyle when you get involved into tournaments, you get involved in a community, you get involved into a ski club. I mean, you've been part of this lifestyle your entire life. There's a lot of amazing benefits. I mean, it, I guess we're coming off of the holidays when this is going to be aired, and you could spend a lot of time in the gym, not to discount, time off the water in the gym doing those type of cross trainings. But I always say when you go through a slalom course the first time after taking some time off, you know if you're in shape or not. It shows up quickly. The physical shape, the feeling you get after taking a ski ride, the sense of achievement. Talk to us about those intangible things that really carry over into other areas of your life.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of planning and preparation, a lot of frustration. Um, yeah, try, making sure, if you've got a goal in mind,
Mm-hmm.
that making sure that if you are trying something different, that you don't go too far one way or the other to sort of offset the bell curve. Um, um, coming, but the best part, as far as physically going out on the water, I developed some drills that I just sort of, the new school kids would say, organically, I came about, and it sort of was. I was going out because my back was all jacked up and was having hip issues.
Mm.
So I started going out, and I would do a dock start, and then I would free ski down, and had a 50-acre lake, a course down either side. There's a decent amount of water. Lake was 2,600 feet long, a half mile. So on the way down, I would just do a couple gate pullouts, and I started doing gate pullouts on the right side, like a jumper was doing 3/4 cuts, which we never do, right? Until we drop at the end of the lake, we never make a pullout to the right. So I started doing this, and then I started doing opposite gates, like a left-handed course. And I would eventually ski a left-handed course down in Mexico for a week straight. So I learned how to do a one-handed gate so I could coach lefties on what it would be like to do a two-handed gate like Chris Parrish, or if you're going to do a one-handed gate like T-Gas, So anyway, I was a bit maniacal with my thoughts, but the sort of practice that I was doing, I eventually realized I would go down, back, down. And the third pass, I would finally do that left-handed gate, and I would ski about 3 buoys, maybe 4 buoys max. And then I would drop. So I've skied 3 passes down and back, no drop. So the heart is pumping. The forearms are pumping. If you've ridden motocross, you're warmed up. It's already as if I've run 32, 35, 38, right? But I'm just at 32 off. And so after I did this a few times, I would just say to my driver, Dave, this Aussie dude, I'd say, hey, just shorten it up to 38 and take me in the course. We'd let the waves sort of settle out, let my heart rate settle down a little bit, and I would just crush it. And I'd be like, the next time out, a couple days later, hey, dude, just put it at 39. I'm like, okay. So I figured out we don't need to warm up.
Yeah.
We don't need buoys to warm up. We need our shot. If we're a tennis player, let me go out and warm up on the back courts, and I'm gonna come and play one game.
That's right.
That's it. One game. That's it. Down and back, down and back. So anyway, now I coach all the time. So I had a couple people getting ready for one of these funky worlds that's going to happen in 27. It was a senior worlds like in South America. So I had a guy from up in New England. He comes down and it's freezing cold. So I walk him through the drill. I said, dude, let me take you through this drill. So here's what you're going to do. And so he hadn't skied in 6 weeks. And at the end of the second set, by the very last pass, I had him in the course and he ran 2:28 offs. And I've done this now with 15, 20 different skiers, this exact same scenario. And every one of them has said, well, that's like 4 weeks worth of skiing, or at least 4 solid days of warm weather before I would get to where you got me in 2 sets.
Wow.
And I'm like, I know how to do this. And I teach you how to just do your gates and get swing and then ride the swing out. And then if you hit your gates right and ride the swing out and your ski's set up, dude, your ski's gonna turn.
Wow.
And it's gonna walk backside one. And once you're early and you backside two, now you've beaten the course.
Yeah.
You're ahead. If you're a lacrosse player like my kids were, you're up 2 goals love. If you're, football player and you're the quarterback, hey, we're up 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I'm early coming into ball 3. I've got, change in my pocket and so you feel good about it. And then you can really ski, the rest of the pass and enjoy it. So that's the earlier in the year we get to that feeling.
That's right.
The better your season's going to be.
Yeah. Well, if our listeners didn't have another reason already to go ski with you, that's a good reason there.
Then you've got to nurture that by not over skiing.
Yes.
And then not under skiing and then having too high of expectations. I had in one of my old podcasts, I told the story of this kid, Jack. He was boys 1. And this is like weeks before the Nationals. And now it's like I'm doing a 3-day camp with them. I've done them 100 times, the same sort of format. Day 3's up the rope day. We've sort of skied enough. I've protected your hands, protected your body. All right, dude, P beats, and he sucked. It's like nearly falling on his first passing, dude. He goes and he's all mad because he's a perfectionist. He says, Coach, can I just not do my tournament set now? Can I just do my drills? And I was like, I looked at his dad. I'm like, okay. No one ever says that. Everyone's like, nah, man, I'm going to do my tournament PB. So he goes out of the course, boom, gets right back where he needed to be, got his feet right between him and the boat at center line, balanced, stacked, the line, whatever you want to call it. And boom, he had his swing back and he's smiling. He's like, wow, let's go back to the course. And then he lit it up. He won boys 1 nationals. 2 weeks later, it was like, yeah,
that's awesome.
That confidence. And then, so that's that learning to ski appropriately. I mean, that's huge. That's not over skiing and then not under skiing. It's sort of, and everybody's got to manage their body and their time differently. And so it's up for everybody to sort of figure out their format, if you will. But man, if you have a patterned out program, then
that's awesome.
Then by Wednesday, Thursday, you know how much money you have in the bank.
That's awesome.
You're like, I'm clicking, I'm jamming, I'm doing exactly what I'm doing. Then you can throttle back. And you can either go, hey, I'm going to take the day off before the tournament, or you go out, you're set before. You're like, no, I'm doing 4 passes. I'm going to do exactly what he said me to do. Go down and back, couple 28s, whatever's in your wheelhouse to do. So now you feel good. You've laid eyes on the lake. And, if you get a practice set at the lake, that's what I'd be thinking. Just see it from both ends. What do we got? Anything odd that the driver's doing that I need to account for? Yeah. So
awesome. Well, let me switch gears a second here, Wade, because we were talking offline the other day. We were talking about how among all the hats that you wear in water skiing, one of those hats is being a historian. And you have seen a lot of things in professional skiing. And this question is really aimed at the entertainment value or the proposition for tournament water skiing at the professional level. And I'm going to put it in the category as entertainment. and you have a diverse background, whether we're talking about lacrosse, you know a lot about lacrosse, or tennis, these other sports that trying to feed off of the entertainment to get spectators to there. You've skied in a lot of different events. You've been to the Masters, you've been to the Worlds, you've been to US Opens, you've been on the Pro Tour with ESPN. TWBC been doing some huge things. I think last year, with what we saw on just the European track, was very, very interesting. And I hope that rolls out the same way, and maybe even some additions to there, because I think there's a lot of things to talk about there. But when you talk about a proposition of entertainment value and water skiing, and you look at your career and where we are now, what are some of the things you like to see? What are the things that you don't think we should maybe do anymore? And just what's your opinion on that question?
Well, it's funny because I had a conversation with Terry Dorner, who was a bigwig at World Publications. He was the owner, part owner of the Pro Tour. And this was, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago, something like that. And he goes, well, we had it pretty good, didn't we? But what those guys were show skiers. And they understood that you needed to take skiing to the masses. And that's what they did a great job of. We skied in some bad conditions. So what? We skied for money, and we skied in front of a lot of people. And I told our new boss at USA Water Ski and Wake, Kev Code. What's up, Kevin? I told him the other day in a convo, I said, man, I loved it. I love skiing in front of a lot of people. I mean, if you're playing a Friday night basketball game,
sure.
Do you want like 10 people to be there, or do you want it to be packed? I mean, like all this energy that you're like in the locker room and you can hear it. And so, yeah, what those guys did a really good job of, and I think we need to see more of this in the future, is exact times when finals are going to go down, and then operate briskly during that 3-hour window. That right. Hey, we want to advertise and we want to promote and we want to get people, because with the webcast, I understand now that it's awesome, and I don't want to get off my couch a lot of times. I mean, my dogs are laying over there on my couch right now. And when it's football Saturday and Sunday, I'm like, yeah, do I really want to go, down when I can get this? Because when you watch the webcast now, those guys are so good that we need to sell the webcast to sports bars and entertainment venues to expose more people to these awesome, finely conditioned athletes,
That's right.
because
that's right.
Yeah, there's Bob Marley, my water ski comedian buddy. He just said to me, hey man, people are starving for your content. Y'all need to give them more of it, make it easier for them to get, like when it was on ESPN. Well, now we got TWBC and YouTube.
Yeah,
you can go click on it whenever you want, watch whatever whenever you want. So, and man, the camera angles that they're using and the speed of their the trailer, those guys they're sharp, man. They're all professionals. All of them have gone to and graduated from a really good film school. And it's a pleasure to be involved with them. And I just want more people to be there on the shore. And I mean, the Worlds did a fantastic job. The Travers Worlds in 23. I know tons of my buddies from New England, Ohio, Michigan. They all, made the pilgrimage down because they wanted to be there to watch. And I thought, me being there as part of the event, I was like, wow, this is like old school Pro Tour Orlando, and everybody came down. All the ski schools emptied out. So no, I'm longing for those days, and I'm hoping to be there. Yeah, when it happens.
That's a great perspective. And as we kind of get to the end, I wanted to ask you this question because we talked about your competitive spirit. We also talked about, I mean, when we talked to Carl, it was really interesting because back in the 80s and 90s, it was almost like some of these athletes were mad scientists behind closed doors doing their own thing and they weren't going to share their secrets. And there was this
100%. Yeah.
yeah. So there was this like competitive tension, I'm going to call it
Yeah.
competitive tension. And then when you actually got to the event, you could, I mean, as a spectator or a viewer, you could see that tension. I want you to talk us through kind of because what I see is, and I think this is a healthy move in a way, to a cultural move that there's a lot of camaraderie on the dock now, and a lot of these athletes work together. One of the things I love about HO and watching Team Syndicate is you're like a Formula One race car team, right? You got everybody watching that particular athlete. You might be working on their ski during the week and the technique, but it seems to cross over brands sometimes. Talk to us about the world in which you were skiing in the 80s and 90s from a competitive standpoint to where we are now.
Yeah, no, it was bizarre because you're exactly right. There was a lot of secrets, if you will. I mean, when I started training with Carl, I was 18. He was 23. He was already the man for 5 years strong now. I'd seen him win the Nationals when he was 16 and upset Bob LaPointe, who was already the godfather. So, the fact that Carl sort of opened up his house and, I lived next door to him and traveled with him and Carmen, slept on the rollaway some nights when I couldn't afford my own room. But he was like teaching me the ropes. He's like, dude, you got to have a trainer and you don't go advertise that shit. It's private, like, yeah, as I go to my gym, it's me and my dude and nobody knows about it. It's not like, hey, we're making videos and shooting selfies. Nah, man, no selfies. No, everybody, because even Dave Benzel interviewed me in '94 after I'd won a tournament. And he's like, yeah, you're the one that's like, really outgoing and friendly and yeah, real laid back. And yeah, all my training partners are like, yeah, you come and practice with me. And he's throwing skis and losing his mind. And that was, it was because it was so competitive. And, in our little pre-chat yesterday, I talked about, NASCAR, and you mentioned Formula One, where Formula One, there's 18 teams, 18 cars. NASCAR, there's at least 43 cars, right? But then we looked at it, we knew how many ski companies there were and how many seats were available. Those guys will pay 3 skiers. You got to be one of those best 3. So it was uberly competitive. Sort of, were you going to be top 5 or were you going to be top 10? Because there was a severe pay grade difference, and then if you weren't in the top 8, so to speak, making the tour finals, getting invited to the Masters, old school, none of this qualifying over all these weekends. Oh man, you had to be top 5 in the world or win a couple tournaments. So there was a, like I said, below that 8 spot, you were lucky if you just got a little bit of money, because Tide were sort of switching back to where it was, the budgets are tightening up a little bit more when I was starting to get paid.
Yeah.
And those spots were cherished, to say the least. I mean, we would go work our butt off in the winter, though. Work sometimes 8 boat shows in a row. Boston, Philly, Chicago, fly out to San Francisco, LA, Seattle, and then you fly back to Florida and ski for 3 days because you had to get ready for Orlando in April when every industry executive was going to be there scouting talent. So, I
Wow.
mean, you all of a sudden bust out one early in the year. You're like, hey, man, does somebody want to sign me up by August? You know, so, and then, yeah, there were some rivalries that were crazy.
Oh, unprecedented rivalries. Yeah, unprecedented.
Hazelwood and Sammy. I know you had Sammy on a podcast. I
Yep.
had him on mine. That's like the first thing I want to talk about. Hey, man, let's talk about the fight in the dock in the world. That's so legit, you know? Like, that is legit. Like, parents are fighting and team coaches. Ours was, you know, I had the rivalry with Maple. You know, it just eventually became he and I, where it was Bob, Carl, and Shaylander before me. And then I sort of moved up the ranks, and Shaylander got hurt. Carl started winning jump, and Bob was gone. I'm like, well, why not me? And the next thing it was, yeah, Andy was a really, really, really competitive guy. And he sort of, I forced some changes in him, I think, as well, because he wasn't great about giving fist bumps to others that just took his spot on the podium. And I pointed him out for it. And I said, look, dude, we're all sharing, you know, fist bumps. And whether Carl won or, you know, Bruce won on the jump or Sammy won, you know, you gave, hey, man, that dude earned it. He went out and kicked everybody's ass. So, you know, give him some props. Don't just go get on your cell phone, order a new ski. So, but yeah, the first 92 to 90 through 96, yeah, me and Andy hated each other. Yeah, we just, because we wanted one thing, what the other had.
Well, and I'm looking at it right now, Wade. Water Ski World Cup season and U.S. Pro Water Ski Tour was 95 and 96. You won those titles. You went runner up in 93, 4, 7, and 8. I mean, y'all were trading blows. I mean,
yeah,
so
no,
if you were having a rough time in 95 and 96, I understand why if you were on top.
Yeah, now Dean Turkle, who's worked with World Pub for the magazine for years in the tour, he brought up a stat, and it sort of blew me away. I was like, oh my goodness! So they made Andy and I do this photo shoot, and by now we've sort of kissed and made up. Now he's got his son Michael, and my daughter Anne Marie was born in '98, and it's like sort of right around this time that they wanted to do this photo shoot. So I somehow made him do it at my lake. I'm like, I ain't going to his lake to do it. He's the king. He can come to my lake. So we've got two boats, platform to platform, and we are toe to toe like boxers. In our board shorts, yeah, no shirt, no shoes.
That's awesome. You know what's
so
interesting? I mean, it we'll get to how that translates to what we're seeing now in just a second, but you know how that relates? I mean, back in that era, I mean, you're thinking similar kind of marketing in a way with like a Larry Bird, Michael Jordan. Remember the McDonald's commercials, right? But what a healthy thing in a way for the sport to see this competition live out in real time. You know what I mean?
I think it was good. I mean, it had to have been fun for the fans, because I remember going, you know, being at Michigan, or, you know, being with Detroit, Indianapolis, St. Louis, and Andy would win, and all these Americans would be like giving him the fist bumps. They're like, you guys are traitors, man. Traitors. I can't believe wearing your O'Brien shirt. You know, like, come on, man. You know, so then a few years later, I'm in England, and like, it's like I'd sort of been on a hiatus from 90 to 97. I didn't go over to Europe once. And so now I'm over in England, and he's like bumming. He's like, dude, everybody just wants to have a beer with you.
Oh, man.
He even said to Christy, he's like, well, shit, every club member at the Princesses wanted to take Wade out for a curry because I love Indian food. So they're all like that. And like, I'm like, and so, yeah, that was sort of part of Andy's transition back into hanging out and being one of the boys, was me just going, well, dude, you got to come have a beer with them or show up at breakfast and sit at the losers table sometime,
Yeah.
you know?
So
And,
tell me about that. With the context of that, now you're dockside in 2000, coming off 2024, going to be going into 2025. What do you see from the competition now? What is that different feel? Because when we watch it, it looks like a different feel culturally among the athletes.
well, no, there is. I think it's fragmented out. You know, we had the pro tour and it was sort of 8 weeks uh, during the summer. You know, we get the outlier would be Orlando or maybe Fort Lauderdale, but then we wouldn't have an event again until after Masters normally. And then it was sort of 7, 8 weeks in a row, just all right in a row, you know. And man, it was, yeah, fighting for the tour title was huge, wanting to be, you know, the
Tour
number
champion.
one
Yeah.
ranked skier. And that was it. It wasn't about the worlds. You know, I didn't even go to half or more of the worlds that I could have because
Mm.
winning the tour title was it. That was everything, you know. So yeah, it made your sponsorships were based on it, and so yeah, it was a highly competitive environment. Yeah,
Highly
and
competitive, highly competitive. Well, I want to wrap up with this question, and you can think about your career. It's really the finishing to a statement. I water ski because. Why did Wade Cox spend his life water skiing
you
and
know
still does?
that's a great sort of a question and take because I think I lost it as we all do. It became I would just want to be the number one skier of the world. I was a miserable SOB, probably 80% of the time to be around, you know, during those wouldn't answer my phone for months on end. You know, I'm like, nah, dude, I'm trying to win the tour. You know, I don't have time to take social phone calls, you know.
Mm.
But then I had kids and I had sort of started getting their bug that they just wanted to go to the lake and jump off the boat.
Ah.
You know, hey, let's
Mm.
just go park in the middle of the lake and swim.
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, that's when we started was being on the water. Just your hair's blowing and you know, everybody's laughing and it's like innocent fun, you
Mm.
know? Yeah, just so that sort of like, you know, turned the tide. And then I was like, shit, this is great. Well, I totally love doing this, you know?
Wow. That's an amazing response there, Wade. I think about your career and to think about I water ski because I can park my boat, drop maybe an anchor, tie myself to a buoy and go swim with the family. I think that speaks volumes for a lot of us and how we feel connected to the sport as a community and how close it brings our family. Um, just an amazing response. I don't know if we've ever had a take like that.
Well, yeah, it's a great lifestyle. That's why I love promoting it. Going, yeah, hey, why would you want to be out having good, clean, innocent fun? Yeah, you can, you know, you can add in adults cocktails if you like, but no, man, if you're out there with your kids, you know, early in the morning or late in the afternoon,
Yeah.
that's fun and yeah, that's an experience in itself, you know. So
Amazing. Well, just like I do with all of my listeners, I want to give you a handoff. Where can people find Wade Cox? Maybe go ski with Wade Cox. And you can thank anybody you want to thank.
well, yeah, I think my mom and dad are awesome. They're same as yours, man. They were like provided this institution for me, you know. And but yeah, reach out. I'm at ski with Wade at Gmail, and you can go ski with Wade underscore is my Instagram. I need followers. I'm a loser on social media. I'm not one of these
All right, everybody,
big
go
time
follow Wade right now.
content. Yeah. At ski with Wade underscore because some other loser stole ski with Wade before me. So whatever. So
Sounds good. Well, Wade, I've looked up to you ever since I was a kid to be in the seat I am now, hosting this podcast, having the opportunity today to talk to you, pick your brain about all sorts of questions. I just want to say it's been an honor and a privilege. And I just want to say thank you, man, for coming on the show.
I appreciate it, man. I want to say one of my best experiences ever at the Nationals was watching you take down that 38 in that gale force win in Illinois that year. I was there watching. I'm like, there's your winner right there. I think it was CC Brown or whoever was after you. Like, no, man, it's a big score to take. So yeah, I'm a
Well,
fan of
I think I had a little bit of memory of Wade Cox at the Masters pumping the fist when I came out of the gate.
No, it was cool.
Let's
No,
go.
for your kids, I can say, man, I was here when your dad won that. It was cool. Yeah. So thanks for having us, Tyler. Appreciate it, man.
Hey, thank you, Wade. And until next time, we're signing off.